harbor like this should bustle with activity. Normally it did, but the city of Melabang was under siege now. It was a double siege. The port was paralyzed from within by the threat of plague, cholera. It was cut off from the outside by a military blockade. The blockade had been imposed by the new self-appointed dictator, Colonel Pranjat. This was his answer to Melabang's demand for constitutional liberty for itself and the rest of the country. The gunboats were reinforced by an underwater minefield from the docks to the harbor entrance. The mines were crude and put together in a hurry, but that only made them more deadly. Obviously, the gunboats knew the exact location of each mine. Still, they came a lot too close for safety. Theirs and mine. I'm Mike Nelson. I had been visiting Melabang when Pranjat lowered the boom. And then when the cholera broke out, I had to help. I volunteered to disarm enough of these mines to let a hospital ship enter the harbor safely. I had already disarmed 4 of them. I had 2 more to go, including this one. The little box on top held the firing mechanism. It worked by contact and pressure. A good-sized fish could brush by it harmlessly, but a boat passing by close enough would set it off. The trickiest part of the job was cutting the 2 wires that led from the firing mechanism down into the high explosive. I held my breath while I snipped the first one. And I didn't start breathing again till I cut the second. The explosive inside the bag was especially tricky. It was called C3. 10 times more unstable than dynamite and 100 times more powerful. I couldn't leave it floating around in Melabang Harbor, that was for sure. It would decompose, however, buried in the sandy bottom. This was the 5th load of explosive I disposed of this way. The sharpshooters on the gunboat weren't sharp enough to spot my bubbles. They continued along in their patrol pattern. But their passage overhead set the mine bobbing and weaving like a punch-drunk fighter. All I could do was wait for it to settle. It never did. I was lucky. I'd been far enough away from the explosion to escape internal injury. My only problem now was breathing. My air was gone. The gunboat patrolling the outer harbor could still be waiting for me, but I'd worry about that later. I didn't need the tanks anymore, so I ditched them. When I came up this time, the gunboat was giving me all the sea room I needed. I'd be able to make it back home by the surface route. My checkpoint was the tower which served as the command post of the Malabang resistance movement. I felt pretty good. We had won the battle to clear the harbor. But on shore, the fight was going all the other way. They were taking a beating even inside the command post. Mayor Sanandar, the resistance leader, told me how bad it was. He didn't mince any words either.
We're losing control, my friend. Since noon yesterday, 155 new cases.
Oh, no. Still nothing to treat them with?
No. What is worse, now the preventive vaccine is gone too. The hospital ship must come soon or it will be all over.
Due right now, isn't it?
We've heard nothing since late last night. So cholera may conquer where Pranjat failed. We were winning, Mike. We were beating him. Now we may have to surrender.
What? You can't surrender.
Pranjat has medical supplies. In order to get them...
You know what he's going to do to you, don't you?
Yes.
To your daughter? All the people who've been working with you?
Yes, I know.
Mike, why did it have to end this way?
It hasn't ended yet.
As your American hero said, don't give up the ship.
That's right. Quite a few battles are won by holding on just a little longer.
Longer?
Just a little longer than you possibly can.
No, you sound like my father.
Oh, thanks for the compliment.
You know he didn't want to lead the people against Pranjat. They begged him. I did too. We couldn't go on living this way, under a dictatorship. Anyway, I thought we couldn't, but now I don't know.
Yes, you do. You do know.
No, the city is dying, Mike.
I don't think you were using those pretty eyes of yours very well. The hospital ship's here. Take a look.
What?
Yeah, been here for quite a while, too. Just putting on a launch, isn't it?
Oh, you're right. I can see it. Father! The hospital ship!
Good. That's good. Mike, you can see the dock from here. Tell me when the launch arrives.
Pranjat will let it through, won't he?
That was our agreement. Put me on the air. This is Radio Free Malabang calling all the people of Singalia. Your courage and your faith have been rewarded. Help is here. The hospital ship Louis Pasteur has dropped anchor outside Malabang Harbor. Medical supplies will be landed on our docks in a matter of minutes.
The gunboat just fired on the launch.
No.
Yes, it's turning back.
So that's what Pranjat meant when he said he would respect international law. He meant he would not attack the hospital ship outside territorial waters, but inside, in the harbor. This is Sanandar again. A new crisis has just arisen, which may mean that our hopes may fail. For now, this is Radio Free Malabang signing off.
We'll get those medical supplies somehow.
Yes, Mike. From Colonel Pranjat. Put me through to his headquarters, please.
Oh, no, wait a minute. No, please. Oh, you can't. You can't give up.
But, Mike, there is no other way.
There might be. It's a long shot, but I'm willing to give it a try. Will you back me up?
How?
Radio the hospital ship. Tell them to stay right where they are, outside territorial waters. I'm going to go out and get those medical supplies.
Underwater?
Mike, you can't. You have to pass through the harbor. The gunboat fired at you once.
It missed me, didn't it? Please, huh? Tell them.
Radio Free Malabang calling hospital ship Louis Pasteur. Radio Free Malabang calling hospital ship Louis Pasteur. Over.
The Louis Pasteur to Malabang. Dr. Halevi speaking. Over.
Dr. Halevi, this is Sanandar. We need your medical supplies desperately, and we have a way of getting to them. Please do not leave your position. Repeating, please do not leave your position. Over.
We will maintain position. We will maintain position. Over and out.
Pranjat's men had no intention of maintaining their position. I didn't even suspect it. But before I started for the hospital ship, they knew just where and how to head me off. The gunboats blocked any passage through Malabang Harbor. Topside, that is. I hoped to make it out to the hospital ship underwater. I had to make it. It was the only way that Malabang could get the supplies it needed to beat the plague. And Colonel Pranjat. This gunboat had fired at me last time. So this time I waited till it was a good ways off before coming up to take my bearings. I thought I might be safe down in the bottom. I hadn't counted on the opposition coming up with a brand new gimmick, using hand grenades as small-sized depth charges. They felt king-size to me. Luckily, I hung on to the scooter. It dragged me out of range. The grenades made me groggy, like being hit on the head and in the middle by a two-barrel pile driver. That gunboat skipper wasn't taking any chances that I'd escape alive. He circled for another run at me. My only hope of beating the gunboat was to stay deep and shift my course frequently. I couldn't do much of that, though. I had to conserve air for the trip back. I made it to the hospital ship in one piece. But it was all I could do to climb that ladder all the way to the deck. It must have been 50 feet straight up. But I was sure that it was worth it.
I am sorry, Mr. Nelson. I can't give you the medicine.
What?
I am sorry.
Doctor, you've got to give it to me.
It is not safe. I know how you feel. I know how discouraging it is to, what is the saying, to stretch out your neck.
Stick out your neck. I could get ashore with this stuff, but you'd have to put it in waterproof cases. Could you do it?
Yes, of course I can do it, but Mr.
And I need plenty of strong manila rope.
Mr. Nelson, please listen.
I know I can do it. I could do it in one trip. I just have enough air to get there, and that'd be about all. But I could do it.
Mr. Nelson, sit down and listen to me. You barely got here with your life. And now you propose to go all the way back with 3 cases of medicine underwater. That is all the cholera vaccine there is within hundreds of miles. I can't afford to take such a chance.
Dr. O'Leary, I don't know how much you know about military blockades, but...
I am from Tel Aviv. My country was blockaded for years.
Well, then you know what'll happen. They'll kill Sanandar first and talk about medicine later. Malabang will go up in smoke if we let him surrender.
If we let them.
It's up to us. That medicine is all important to them.
Can you do it?
I've got to.
You realize what you're asking me to do?
Mm-hmm. To stretch out your neck for freedom.
Mr. Nelson, you have no right to ask this of me. And I have no right to grant it. But I'm going to.
The return trip started like a breeze. I began to think that the gunboats had given me up as a bad job. Matter of fact, before I had any reason to think otherwise, I was deep inside the harbor almost 2/3 of the way home. I guess they figured that if they couldn't lick me, they'd join me. At least they'd fight me in my own element. They sent a shell diver after me. A man who could stay down for minutes at a time without scuba, and who could keep it up all day. His objective was the same as mine, the supplies. knife slashed the tow line and dropped my scooter down into a 500-foot chasm. Then he turned his attention to me, but the knife ended up in his shoulder instead. Their diver was out of action, but they weren't finished with me yet. Apparently, they were planning to join up with the other gunboats and box me in between them. Another mine. One of the other gunboats must have sown a fresh crop. I didn't have much time to speculate about it. My fight with the shell diver and the extra effort it took to tow the supplies without a scooter had used up my air completely. I had to surface again, even though the gunboat might blast me right out of the water. What happened to the first gunboat must have scared off the others. I made it to shore without even seeing them.
I repeat, agreement has been reached among all parties on the island. A constitutional convention will be held here at Malabang under international auspices beginning 1 week from today. This is Radio Free Malabang signing off until 6 o'clock tonight.
That's wonderful. That's just wonderful. Isn't that wonderful?
Oh, Mike.
You better keep an eye on that father of yours. I'm afraid there's going to be another epidemic pretty soon.
Yes?
Uh-huh. An epidemic of freedom.
Oh.
I'll be back next week at the same time with another sea hunt story. Plan to be with us again, huh?